November 2nd, 1934, Tokyo. Outside Meiji Jingu Stadium, 8 o'clock in the morning, an elderly Japanese man stands in front of Babe Ruth, former samurai class, his family's honor earned in battle. 400 years of warrior lineage. His grandfathers fought in the Meiji Restoration. His father fought in the Russo-Japanese War. And now Americans are coming to teach them baseball, with a brown ball, with a wooden bat, with gloves. This is an insult. This is disrespect. This is an attack on the Japanese soul. Baseball is not a game, he speaks in Japanese, hard, angry. The translator converts his words. Real sport requires discipline, requires courage, requires risk of death. In your game, nobody dies, nobody gets injured. You just run, you just hit. This is not sport. This is dance. He raises the bakken in his hand, a wooden training sword, points it at Ruth's face. You are not warriors. You are showmen, clowns. You come to Japan and mock us with your baseball. Ruth is trying to understand the situation. This is not just a grumpy old man. This is something deeper. Cultural collision, East meeting West, tradition clashing with modernity. And Ruth is in the middle. What will he do? Will he fight? Will he argue? Or something else? The journey to this moment started 3 months earlier. August 1934. The Japanese government invites an American all-star team to Japan. 18 games, cultural exchange. Ruth is asked to lead. He accepts immediately, not for money or fame, but because he believes baseball can connect people. Cross-cultural barriers, unite nations. September 1934, the team assembles. Lou Gehrig, Jimmy Fox, Charlie Gehringer, Lefty Gomez. The best in American baseball. October 20th, they board a ship in San Francisco, 12 days across the Pacific. Ruth takes the responsibility seriously. This might be his last great adventure. He wants it to matter. November 1st, 1934. The ship arrives in Yokohama. The team is shocked by what they see. Thousands of people, maybe 10,000, lining the docks, waving American flags, waving Japanese flags, chanting, "Babe Ruth, Babe Ruth." The welcome is overwhelming. Children hold signs in English. Welcome, American heroes. We love baseball. Ruth San #1. The team did not expect this, did not expect to be treated like royalty. But Japan has been preparing for months. Newspapers have been covering the visit for weeks. Radio stations broadcasting updates. Schools teaching students about American baseball. The entire nation is excited, except for some, except for the traditionalists, except for people like Takeshi Yamamoto, 62 years old, former samurai family, kendo master for 40 years. He watches the arrival on the docks, watches the celebration, and feels rage, not at the Americans themselves, but at what they represent. The death of Japanese tradition, the corruption of Japanese youth, the replacement of warrior values with entertainment values. Yamamoto has been fighting this for years, fighting the spread of baseball in Japanese schools, fighting the popularity of American culture, fighting the modernization that he believes is destroying Japan's soul. And now the Americans are here, being celebrated, being worshipped. He decides something must be done. A message must be sent. Baseball is not welcome. Not if it means forgetting who Japan is. That night, the American team stays at the Imperial Hotel in Tokyo, the most luxurious hotel in Japan, designed by Frank Lloyd Wright. The team is exhausted but excited. Tomorrow is their first practice at Meiji Jingu Stadium. The first game is in 2 days. Ruth cannot sleep. He stands on his balcony, looks out at Tokyo. The city is massive, buildings everywhere, lights, activity, but also temples, shrines, traditional architecture mixed with modern, old and new existing together. He thinks about what this trip means, about the responsibility, about making sure baseball is presented the right way, making sure it respects Japanese culture while sharing American passion. He finally falls asleep around 3 a.m., wakes up at 6 a.m., dresses, goes downstairs. The team is meeting for breakfast at 7:30. Then heading to the stadium at 8 o'clock. Ruth steps outside the hotel, wants to walk, clear his head, see the city. The morning air is cool, clean. Tokyo is just waking up, people heading to work, bicycles everywhere, the smell of food from street vendors. Ruth walks slowly, taking it all in. Then he sees the stadium. Meiji Jingu Stadium, just a few blocks from the hotel. He walks toward it, wants to see where they will play, where they will make history. As he approaches, he sees a crowd gathering, maybe 50 people, waiting outside the stadium gates, waiting for the team. He tries to go unnoticed, but someone recognizes him. "Ruth-san! Ruth-san!" Within seconds, the entire crowd surrounds him, asking for autographs, asking for photographs. Ruth signs everything, smiles for every picture. His Japanese is terrible, but he tries. "Arigato. Thank you. Baseball good. America-Japan friend." The crowd loves it, laughs at his pronunciation, but appreciates the effort. Then the crowd parts. Takeshi Yamamoto walks through, wearing traditional hakama pants, haori jacket, gray hair pulled back, posture perfect, military bearing. In his hands, a bakken, the wooden training sword. He stops 10 feet from Ruth, stares. The crowd goes silent. Something is about to happen. Yamamoto speaks, in Japanese, loud, clear, forceful. The crowd looks uncomfortable. Some people step back. A young man in the crowd speaks English, offers to translate. "This man says baseball is not real sport, children's game. Real warriors use real weapons. Your bat is a toy. Your game is circus." Ruth looks at Yamamoto, looks at the bakken, understands this is a challenge, not physical, philosophical, cultural. Yamamoto continues speaking. The translator keeps converting. "You come to Japan and think you will teach us, but you do not understand Japan. You do not understand our values, our history, our soul. Baseball is American corruption, makes Japanese youth weak, makes them forget warrior spirit, forget discipline, forget honor. You should leave, take your game, go home." The crowd is shocked. Some people start arguing with Yamamoto, telling him to be quiet, to show respect. But Yamamoto raises his voice, speaks over them. "I am showing respect. Respect for Japan, respect for our traditions. Baseball does not belong here." Ruth stands there, processing. He could argue, could defend baseball, could talk about how sports unite people. But he realizes something. Yamamoto is not wrong. Not entirely. Baseball is changing Japan, is bringing American culture, is shifting traditions. Ruth cannot deny that, but he also believes the change is not bad, not corruption, evolution, growth, a way for Japan to be both traditional and modern, both Eastern and Western, to honor the past while embracing the future. He steps closer to Yamamoto, close enough to be respectful but not threatening, looks directly into his eyes, speaks slowly so the translator can keep up. "I understand your concern," Ruth says. "You love Japan. You love your traditions. You want to protect them. That is honorable. That is the mark of a true warrior." Yamamoto blinks. Did not expect this response. Expected argument. Expected arrogance. "But baseball is not your enemy," Ruth continues. "Baseball is not here to destroy Japanese culture. Baseball is here to add to it." to give young people another way to learn discipline, learn teamwork, learn respect. The same values you teach with your sword, we teach with our bat. Yamamoto's expression does not change, but he is listening. Tomorrow I play my first game in Japan, Ruth says. I invite you to watch, not as an enemy, as a judge. Watch the game, watch how we play, watch how the Japanese players play, then decide if baseball has value, if it deserves a place in Japan. If you still believe it is foolish, I will respect that. But give it a chance. Give me a chance to show you what baseball truly is. The crowd is silent, waiting for Yamamoto's response. He looks at Ruth for a long moment. Then he nods once. I will watch, Yamamoto says in Japanese. The translator converts. I will judge. And if your game is as empty as I believe, I will tell all of Japan to reject it. Ruth extends his hand. Western greeting. Yamamoto looks at it, hesitates, then shakes it. Firm grip, strong, the grip of a warrior. Fair enough, Ruth says. Yamamoto walks away. The crowd parts for him, watches him leave, then erupts in chatter, excited, nervous. What just happened? Did Ruth just make a deal with one of Japan's most respected traditionalists? Did he just bet baseball's future in Japan on one game? The rest of the team arrives at the stadium an hour later. Ruth tells them what happened. Some laugh. Think it is just one old man's opinion. Others take it seriously. Understand this is bigger than they thought. Lou Gehrig pulls Ruth aside. Babe, what if we have a bad game tomorrow? What if we don't perform well? You just told that man he can judge all of baseball based on 18 innings. Ruth smiles. Then we better not have a bad game. That afternoon, the team practices. They are watched by thousands. Japanese baseball players, coaches, journalists, everyone curious about American baseball. How is it different from Japanese baseball? Are the Americans really that much better? The practice goes well. Ruth hits several balls into the stands. The crowd cheers every time. But Ruth is not satisfied. He knows tomorrow needs to be perfect, not just good, perfect. That night he barely sleeps again, thinking about the game, about Yamamoto, about Japan, about legacy. November 3rd, 1934. Game day? Meiji Jingu Stadium is packed. 60,000 people, every seat filled, people standing in the aisles, hanging over railings. The atmosphere is electric. This is not just a baseball game. This is a cultural event, a test, a moment that will define baseball's future in Japan. The American team takes the field for warm-ups. The crowd erupts, cheering, chanting. Ruth! 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 Ruth waves, smiles, but his mind is focused. He scans the crowd, looking for one person. And there, in the front row behind home plate, sits Takeshi Yamamoto, wearing the same traditional clothes, same stern expression, arms crossed, watching, judging. Ruth makes eye contact, nods. Yamamoto does not nod back, just stares. The game begins. The American team is playing against a Japanese all-star team, the best players from Japanese professional and university leagues. The first inning is tense. The Japanese pitcher is nervous, throws 3 balls before getting a strike. The American batter hits a single, then another. By the end of the inning, America leads 2-0. Ruth watches from the dugout, watches Yamamoto. The old warrior's expression has not changed. Second inning. The Japanese team bats. They are skilled, disciplined. They do not have the power of American players, but they have strategy. They work the count, place their hits. By the end of the inning, Japan has scored 1 run. America leads 2-1. The crowd is ecstatic. Their team is competing, not being dominated. This is a real game. Third inning. Ruth steps to the plate, his first at-bat in Japan. The crowd noise is deafening. Camera flashes everywhere. The Japanese pitcher is Eiji Sawamura, only 17 years old, but incredibly talented. He stares at Ruth, not intimidated, not impressed, just focused. First pitch, fastball, high, ball one. Second pitch, curveball, outside, ball two. The crowd is chanting. Half for Ruth, half for Sawamura. Third pitch, fastball, right down the middle. Ruth swings, misses, strike one. The stadium erupts. The teenage pitcher just struck out Babe Ruth. Well, got one strike. Sawamura does not celebrate, just prepares for the next pitch. Fourth pitch, another fastball. Inside, Ruth swings, connects, but weak contact. Ground ball to second base, easy out. Ruth jogs to first, but he is out before he gets there. The crowd goes insane. Babe Ruth struck out. The American legend was defeated by a 17-year-old Japanese pitcher. Yamamoto leans forward in his seat. Interested now, the Japanese players are not afraid, are not overwhelmed. They are competing. Fourth inning, fifth inning. The game stays close. America leads 3-2. The crowd is fully engaged, chanting, singing, baseball songs in Japanese. Ruth realizes something. These people do not just like baseball, they love it, they understand it, they have made it their own. This is not American baseball being imported. This is Japanese baseball being born. If you're invested in this story and want to see how Babe Ruth won over Japan's toughest critic, make sure to subscribe for more incredible sports history moments. And comment below, do you think sports can truly bridge cultural divides, or is tradition more important? Let me know your thoughts. Sixth inning. Ruth comes to bat again. The score is now 4-3, America. Sawamura is still pitching, still strong, still confident. He has struck out 4 American batters so far. Ruth steps into the box. The crowd is standing. Yamamoto is standing. Everyone knows this at-bat matters. First pitch. Curveball. Ruth watches it. Ball 1. Second pitch. Fastball. High. Ball 2. Sawamura is being careful, does not want to give Ruth anything good. Third pitch. Change up. Ruth swings. Foul ball. Strike 1. Fourth pitch. Fastball. Inside corner. Perfect pitch. Ruth swings. Connects. The sound is different. Fuller. Deeper. The ball rockets toward right field, rising. The right fielder runs back, keeps running. The ball sails over his head, over the fence. Home run. Ruth's first home run in Japan. The stadium explodes. The noise is incredible. People jumping, screaming, crying. Ruth rounds the bases, slowly, taking it in. This moment, this place, these people. As he rounds third base, he looks at Yamamoto. The old warrior is still standing, but his arms are no longer crossed. His expression has changed, not quite smiling, but something. Recognition. Respect. Ruth crosses home plate. His teammates mob him. But Ruth is not celebrating excessively. He bows. Toward the crowd, a Japanese bow, showing respect. The crowd loses their minds. The American giant is honoring their culture, is showing humility, is showing that baseball can coexist with Japanese values. The game continues. Final score, America 10, Japan 5, but the score does not matter. What matters is how the game was played, with respect, with discipline, with honor. Both teams played like warriors, just with bats instead of swords. After the game, the American team is in the locker room, celebrating, laughing, proud of their performance. Ruth changes quickly, goes outside, looking for someone. He finds Yamamoto. The old warrior is standing alone, away from the crowd, looking at the field. Ruth approaches. "You stayed for the entire game," Ruth says. "The translator is there. converts the words. Yamamoto turns, looks at Ruth. I said I would judge. I judge the entire thing, not just pieces. And what is your judgment? Ruth asks. Yamamoto is quiet for a moment, then speaks. The translator converts. I was wrong. Baseball is not foolish. It is not children's game. I watched those Japanese players, watched their discipline, their focus, their respect for the game. They played like warriors, with honor, with courage. He pauses, looks at Ruth. You hit a home run today, but that is not what impressed me. What impressed me was how you carried yourself, how you respected our culture, how you bowed after crossing home plate. You understood. You understood that baseball can be played the American way or the Japanese way, but both ways require the same spirit. Ruth smiles. My whole life, people told me baseball is just a game, just entertainment, but I always believed it was more. A way to teach young people about life, about working together, about failing and trying again, about respecting your opponents while competing against them. That is why I love baseball, not for the home runs, for what it teaches. Yamamoto nods. In Japan, we teach these things with kendo, with judo, with martial arts. I thought baseball could not teach the same lessons, but I was wrong. Baseball is a different path to the same destination. Honor, discipline, excellence. He extends his hand. Western greeting. Ruth shakes it. I will tell my students about today, Yamamoto says through the translator. We'll tell them that new things are not always bad, that tradition can grow, that Japan can be both Japanese and modern. Baseball has earned its place here. The American team plays 17 more games in Japan. They win 16, lose 1. The loss comes against Sawamura and an all-star university team. The Americans are not upset. They are honored to lose to such skilled players. Each game, the crowds get larger, more enthusiastic, more knowledgeable about baseball. Ruth hits 13 home runs during the tour, but he also spends time teaching Japanese players about American techniques, learning from them about Japanese approaches. The cultural exchange goes both ways. On the final day, November 20th, 1934, there is a ceremony. The American team is given gifts, traditional Japanese items, samurai swords, kimonos, pottery. Ruth is given something special, a bakken, the same type of training sword Yamamoto carried, presented by Yamamoto himself. A warrior's weapon, Yamamoto says, to remind you that baseball players are warriors too, just different kind. Ruth is speechless, takes the bakken, bows deeply. I will treasure this forever, he says, and when people ask me about Japan, I will tell them about you, about how you taught me that respecting tradition does not mean rejecting change, about how old and new can exist together. The ceremony ends. The American team boards the ship. The journey back to America takes 12 days. On the ship, Ruth keeps the bakken with him, holds it, thinks about Japan, about Yamamoto, about how one conversation can change everything. The impact of the 1934 tour changed Japan forever. Before the tour, baseball was popular. After, it exploded. Within 5 years, baseball became Japan's national sport. More popular than sumo, the tour showed Japanese youth that baseball could be played with Japanese values, Japanese discipline, Japanese honor. It also changed how Americans viewed Japan. Baseball remained a connection even as political tensions increased, even as war seemed inevitable, a shared language, a reminder that people are people regardless of nationality. Takeshi Yamamoto lived until 1952. He died at age 80. In his later years, he became baseball's greatest advocate. He wrote articles, gave speeches, talked about how baseball taught the same values as martial arts. "I learned more from watching one baseball game than from teaching 1,000 kendo classes," he would say. Wisdom is not protecting the past. Wisdom is knowing when the past must evolve. When Yamamoto died, hundreds attended his funeral, including baseball players from every level. At the funeral, his family displayed a photograph: Yamamoto and Babe Ruth, shaking hands. November 3, 1934. The day tradition met progress. Babe Ruth kept the Bakken Yamamoto gave him for the rest of his life. It hung on the wall of his home. When visitors asked about it, he told them the story of the old samurai who challenged him, who judged baseball and found it worthy, who taught him that respect goes both ways, that cultures can share without one destroying the other. When Ruth died in 1948, the Bakken was passed to the Baseball Hall of Fame. It is still there, in a display case, next to Ruth's bat, his uniform, his championship rings, and a plaque. The plaque reads, "Gift from Takeshi Yamamoto, Samurai Master, November 1934, a symbol of respect between warriors." A reminder that sports unite what politics divide. Today, Japan is one of the greatest baseball nations on earth. World-class players, World Series champions, Olympic gold medalists. Japanese baseball combines American power with Japanese precision, American showmanship with Japanese discipline, the perfect fusion, and it started with a tour. A team of Americans traveling to Japan, building bridges, but more specifically, it started with one moment, November 2, 1934, when Takeshi Yamamoto challenged Babe Ruth. And Ruth responded not with anger, but with invitation, not with argument, but with demonstration. That is the real lesson of this story. Not that baseball is great, not that America is great, but that listening is great, that respecting different views is great. That being willing to prove yourself rather than just proclaim yourself is great. Yamamoto could have refused to watch the game, could have stayed in his prejudice, could have spent his life fighting against baseball, but he gave it a chance, watched with an open mind, allowed himself to be wrong, to change. That is the mark of a true warrior, not stubbornness, flexibility, not rigid tradition, evolving wisdom. November 2, 1934, Tokyo. Takeshi Yamamoto stood in front of Babe Ruth and said American baseball was foolish. 24 hours later, he stood in the same stadium and watched the most beautiful game he had ever seen, watched warriors compete with bats instead of swords, with balls instead of arrows, with respect instead of violence, and he understood. Baseball was not the enemy of Japanese tradition. Baseball was the next chapter of Japanese tradition, a new way to teach old values, a bridge between past and future, between East and West, between isolation and connection. The 1934 tour changed Japan, changed baseball, changed history, and it all started with one old samurai brave enough to challenge a legend, and one legend humble enough to accept the challenge. That is power of sports. That is power of respect. That is why November 2, 1934 matters. Not because of the games that were played, but because of the conversation that happened before the first pitch was thrown. The conversation that changed everything.